Mark Adam from Sky.
Morning, Eddie. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mark.
Has the Championship this week shown what is possible on the final day of a football season, Eddie? You look at Barnsley in the relegation zone every week since September, and then in the 91st minute on the final day, they jump out of it. Swansea needed a 6-goal swing. Are Bournemouth hoping for something very similar on the final day?
Yeah, I think that's a very good way of starting the interview, Mark, if I can compliment you on that question, because the Championship showed just what why everyone loves the game. I mean, that's the end of a season, a long, long season. The Championship's such a physical grind. And you saw so many swings and different emotions, and you saw some teams celebrating, some teams collapsed on the pitch in disappointment. And I think that is a great thing for us to see, really, just before this weekend, because you never know. And I think the only thing we can do is control what we do. We've got to try and win a game of football and then hope that other results fall our way.
It obviously is against the odds because of Aston Villa and Watford's position, but is there a real belief and a togetherness in that Bournemouth dressing room that this Sunday can be your day and you can survive in the Premier League?
Yeah, I think there's a belief that we can win our game, and I think that is, as I said, the only thing that we can control, and that's what we have to do. Now, it's easier said than done. Our away form's not been good for some time now. A lot of those away games, I think we've lost very narrowly. And some games we look back on with huge frustration because we should have got more points than we have. For whatever reason, we've ended up just on the wrong side of it a long time for a lot of those games. So we've got to win a game of football. We've got to go to Everton and try and do our bit first. And then who knows? And that's where the unpredictability of football, you're hoping that we get a little bit of luck that we need.
This week it came out in the media that the club had opened talks with Manchester City about a potential deal for Nathan Ake. What's the very latest on that one, and how sad would you be to see him leave the club, because he's been an incredible servant over the last few years?
Yeah, there's going to be no comment from me on that. That everything beyond Sunday is not for me to comment on now. Let's let that happen after the game. Nathan's part of our squad, a big part of our squad. Now, whether he's fit for the game, we'll have to wait and see. He's got a very minor groin problem, so we'll wait and see whether he's available. That's still undecided. Whether he's one, fit enough to play, or two, from the injury side, and also from the fact that he hasn't trained for a part and hasn't really done anything physically in between the injury to now. So we'll make a very late call on him. But at the moment, he's focused on trying to keep us in the league.
Does it surprise you that he has interest from a team like Manchester City, who are obviously one of the best, not just in the Premier League, but European football? He has so much quality, which you've seen up close and personal.
Mark is a very good player, but he's our player, and he's focused on trying to keep us in the division at this moment in time.
Obviously, this season has seen VAR inducted into the Premier League for the first time. If you could sum it up in one word, what would that be?
One word for VAR. Yeah, I don't think there's one word. I think there's several words. I think it's a work in progress for me. I think there was always going to be teething problems. I think, just my opinion, and this was my opinion at the start, I think it's changed the dynamic of the game from a time when you could celebrate goals and feel the emotion of the scoring and how that's affected your season potentially, or that game. You could really be in the moment. Now you can't. And I think that's a real negative on the game. I think there's been a whole host of things chucked at it at once. So you've got offsides, all the things that VAR has been involved in, and the new goal kick rule. I think it's been a huge shift in the game, possibly, in my opinion, too much too soon, all at once. I think that was a big task for VAR. And that's why I'd say there's a lot to talk about, and I think a lot to decide beyond this game and going into next season.
And one word?
There's no one word, Mark. There's no one word. Several words.
Thanks, Eddie. Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks, Mark. Paul Belveston from PLP.
Morning, Eddie.
Morning.
You have a cliche, I suppose, of how luck difficult decisions would even themselves out over the course of a season. Did you always buy into that? If so, I imagine you're expecting a whole host of luck this weekend, don't you?
I don't think that's, maybe I have used those words. I think that's more other people's words, and you sort of go along with it and think these things do even themselves out. I think with VAR this season for us, it's been tough. That the Southampton one was it was offside and it's the right call, but it was tough when I think the most difficult thing is when the linesman keeps his flag down, and then it's found to be offside, and we found that obviously at Tottenham and at Southampton, two late goals that we think we've scored that have then been cancelled. I think we've only had that back in our favour once, which would have been the Dan Gosling goal at Chelsea. So it is what it is. You can't do anything about it. But it just emotionally, they're very, very painful late blows for us.
And with them being goals that would have stood in previous seasons, has it been? I mean, it feels cruel. Has it been hard this week to shake off those feelings and focus everything on the weekend?
No, I don't think it's that part has been hard. They are cruel blows at the time, and obviously when you're reflecting on the game, they're incredibly difficult moments. I think the Southampton one especially, because we knew how big that point could be for us, and then we concede pretty much straight after. I think the players were mentally crushed by that, and I think you then have to pick yourself up. But that's a process that probably takes a couple of days for the players. But yeah, that's what VAR's done, and it's changed the game totally. I'm not going to moan about it. The reality is it's there and it's happened. But I think we've been, you look just two things. You look at David Silva's handball for Manchester City. I don't know how much you've seen of those decisions or that decision itself. That's not a penalty, and then Harry Wilson's is a penalty. For me, there's still inconsistencies, even with the ability to look back in slow motion. All the decisions are still inconsistencies from the referees.
You've mentioned Nathan. What's your other team news?
Other team news: Adam Smith should be fit after his concussion. Apart from that, we've got a few knocks and niggles, but nothing major to reveal.
And how about Everton at the weekend? What have you made of them recently?
Everton, good team, very good players, an outstanding manager with an unbelievable track record. I think they're a strong team. They're very settled way of playing, very good creative players in the front position. So we know, as I said earlier, we just have to do our bit, which is win a game of football. But that's easier said than done. This is away from home against a good team. So we know we're going to have to be first good mentally. We're going to have to put all the other noise out the way and focus on the football match.
As far as the noise, it's unusual in that normally in this situation, the crowd would keep you very well informed of what's happening to Villa and Watford. I guess you have a choice this time as to whether you're kept informed or not. Do you know what you're going to do? Are you going to ignore that until your job is done?
Are you talking about me personally?
Yeah.
Yeah, me personally, I'll be engaged in the game. I'm always the same. I'm so focused on our game that there'll be no thought of any other. It doesn't matter to us really what happens elsewhere. We have to win this game to have any chance. So I'll put all my energies into that, and then I'm sure at some stage I will hear what's happening elsewhere. But we have to win regardless. So that's what I'll be concentrating on.
Good luck, Ed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Ian Abrahams from TalkSport.
Hi, Eddie. How are you?
I'm really good, Moose. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. When West Ham Man United, Carlos Tevez scored on the final day, I remember Roy Hodgson's Fulham team being relegated at half-time in the game against Man City, but still survived. Everton on the final day against Wimbledon. They do happen, survival on the final day. Is that where you've got to cling to? Yeah,
they do happen. And I think history tells you that. As I said, the Championship earlier this week said some crazy things can happen where people wouldn't predict. That is where we are, and we have to, as I keep saying, we have to do our bit first, because if the two other results were to pan out as we need and we don't win, that would be another very cruel twist all self-inflicted from our side. So that's why we have to do what we can do and try and win the game.
You're a very tight-knit family down there, both players and obviously you and Jason and Steve in terms of the management. How easy or difficult has it been to lift everybody this week from your side to get up for this game? I don't mean in terms of the magnitude of it. I mean in terms of off the back of what was the defeat last week, which you said was crushing.
Yeah, I think in football you get so many blows, so many disappointments. Picking yourself up becomes almost a ritual you have to go through. So as a player, I had the same. As a manager, I've had so many, and it's a process you go through. You lick your wounds for the night of the game, the next day. You have to clear your emotions of it, and then you have to rebuild. And it's a process. Unfortunately, this season we've had to do many times. But I think me personally, I think that's one of my strengths. I think for my team around me, I think it's one of their strengths. Because you always have another game, the club will have another season. You know that life in football goes on; it never ends. Touch wood. So that's something you have to be very, very strong at. You need good resilience. You need to be resolute, and you need to be positive because you need to affect the next moment in your career. You can't affect the things that have gone. Yeah,
I was going to say the big word really is perspective, isn't it? I mean, Steve's goal again to keep the club in the Football League, and you've told me many times that was the biggest game of your career. This isn't the biggest; it's a big game, but there needs to be some perspective, doesn't there, in all the noise going up to the game?
Yeah, there needs to be some perspective because I think that helps you just be settled and just play the game and not play the occasion. I always think the next game is the biggest game in your career, so I tend not to look back and try and build the past games up too much. I think it's always the next game because your future is undecided. You have to write the next chapter in your future by what you deliver in the here and now. So the next game is the biggest games of all of our careers, and we're going to do our best to win the game.
And finally, is this more nerve-wracking than the day that you got promoted? I mean, going into the game?
It's a different emotion. I think different feelings. I think they both create the same nerves, I think, and in some respects, nerves are a very good thing. But there's just a different emotion, I think, attached to it.
Listen, best of luck, Eddie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Nick Purewell from PA.
Hi, Eddie. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thanks for your time. And I know you said obviously you can't look past Sunday. But whatever happens this weekend, do you want to be at Bournemouth next season, you personally?
Well, that's looking past Sunday, isn't it?
Well, I just wondered if that was,
My commitment to the club has never changed. From day one, I do my best for the club, and that will not change. We go into Sunday, we'll have a sit down at the end of the season, regardless of what happens, and see what happens next.
And like you said, obviously, and we've seen it happen, saw it in the Championship, and Moose was talking about it as well. We've seen there's plenty of last day escapes. In terms of how you approach the game yourself, can you use, would you tell the players that, sort of to use the passion of the situation and get that to fire them up and put the nerves aside?
Yeah, I don't think the players will need help getting motivated for this game. It's controlling our emotions is going to be key because you have to play the game and you have to play the moment. You have to be very much in the present. Thinking too much or getting too emotional can be very counterproductive. So we need the players just to, sounds funny, but enjoy the game, play the game as they've always done, but play to a very high level. That's what we'll be trying to do.
And you say play the game as normal, enjoy it as they normally would. Is that the same for you and your staff? Is the key thing not to change, to change as little as possible as this in this week? Yeah,
enjoying it. We try to. It's a very, very difficult feeling, but I think we'll go and we have to. You have to stick to your instincts and your principles and everything that you've always done, because I think you can't let one game change you emotionally. So we'll go and attack the game, try and win, and then see what happens.
Thanks, Eddie. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. And then Kerry Johnston from ITV Meridian.
Good morning, Eddie. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thanks for your time. How difficult is it for the team to concentrate on the job in hand when they know there are things out of their control which could have a bearing on their fate?
Well, I think in football, it's something you do get used to, and especially when you've been in our position like we have done for the previous few years. But all the way through our Premier League life, I've always tried to tell the players that let's concentrate on ourselves and control what we can control, and that's ourselves. So in this game, there are other results that will affect our destiny, but we have to do our bit first. We have to try and just focus on ourselves, win our game, and then see what happens.
Whatever happens on Sunday, what message would you like to give to the fans who have supported you through all the ups and downs of the season?
Not just this season, but previous seasons. I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart for all the support that they've given me, the team. They're such a special group of people. We've had such a unique link between ourselves and them. It's been a really close bond, and I'm just so disappointed that we haven't had them with us through these 9 games. It's been totally unique, different situation, but we've certainly missed them. So I just wanted to thank them for all their support.
There's so much pressure on you and the team and staff, and you in particular as a manager. Can you still enjoy your football?
You notice the pause there. I think it's a difficult one. I think you relish the challenge. You enjoy lots of different aspects of the job. There's a lot at stake, and that is very obvious to everybody. But I think it's one of those things that you look back in time and you look back and think how good it was or how much you enjoyed certain challenges. And sometimes the harder the challenge and the more difficult moment you're in, the most satisfying it is at the end. So I'll probably answer that question better in about 5 years' time.
Eddie, thank you very much, and the very best of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kerry. That brings to an end the broadcast section. We'll move on to the embargoed section for 10:30 p.m. tonight.